I'm Russell McKenzie. I farm 750 hectares in Cambridgeshire. I'm an AHDB monitor farmer and a Nuffield scholar. I've just chaired the crop establishment session. We've had 3 interesting speakers and we've learned about the importance of looking at our land outfalls with drainage. Some of the drainage as well is getting old, so how we monitor those. We've had a really interesting talk about how we deal with balancing our nutrients within our soil and bulk density. And then we've looked more closely at cover crops and reduced tillage and how less can sometimes mean more, but not losing out in yield at the end of the day as well.
Hi, I'm Mark Tucker of Yara UK Limited, heading up the Marketing and Agronomy Department. Just chaired the crop nutrition session, and we've had a real discussion around nitrogen management particularly, which is probably one of the most or the biggest investment that the farmer is going to make over the coming months, whether it's the arable farmer or the livestock farmer. So the discussion has featured about the rates that we use. There's all too often a blanket application towards fertiliser around using one particular rate. What we've tried to and learnt from the session there is that around the optimum there's quite a big spread, so we want farmers to really think about the application rate on a field by field and even within field scenario. Moving on from that, then we discussed and took home messages from Philippe, some very unique work done in France on long-term experiments around the use of different forms of nitrogen, something that's never been done in the UK, so it's nice to learn from that experimentation. It's a 12-year study and again has emphasised the longer-term effects that the farmer makes when he makes specific choices around nitrogen. And what the very clear signal was this 4 to 5% yield difference that you build into your system through long-term use of urea. So really the take-home message for the farmer is to weigh up that decision and the choice he makes around nitrogen source, whether he chooses urea, whether he chooses ammonium nitrate, because that will have a long-term impact on his yield aspiration.
So I'm Guy Gagen, I'm NFU's Chief Arable Advisor, and I've been chairing the crop protection session today at CropTec. We've heard from some really interesting speakers talking about the importance of precision decisions on the farm, making sure you're careful and look at improving every element of the farming business by a little bit to add up to an improvement on the whole. We've also looked at keeping clear of regulations and the hurdles that are caused by them, making sure that you comply with buffer zones, which is a terribly complicated area, but very important to keep in compliance with. And then we've also heard from Keith Norman from Velcourt on some of the ideas that might help us use crop protection products better in the future, use them sooner so that we can use less, and so we can also make them work better and last longer in terms of their efficacy.
I'm Sean Sparling. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Association of Independent Crop Consultants, AICC. I work on 26,000 acres of arable land across Lincolnshire, and I've just chaired the plant breeding session here at CropTec. And there are 3 things I will take home. Firstly, there is no easy answer to anything. We have to understand what goes on below ground level just as much as we understand what goes on above ground level. It's very easy to forget how important it is underground. Also the wheat markets, that we are not in control. We get a good harvest, the yields are brilliant, the price is always going to be depressed, and it's the world market which governs whether we get a good price, whether we can move the grain, whether we sit on it, whether we sell it, or how it works. 2012 was the worst harvest we'd had. The wheat rooting would be good but not brilliant, and yet the price was through the roof. This year we've had a record-beating harvest, and yet the price is absolutely appalling. So we're not in control of it all. And the third thing that I will take home from it is the fact that there is an awful lot of work being done behind the scenes by people like AHDB for our benefit, that we use that information on a daily basis, and we don't fully appreciate just how much work there is going on behind the scenes to make this science, which is not precise, slightly more precise perhaps than it should be or could be. So I think I've taken home that I'm a minnow and I understand a little bit, but the people I'm working with are the people who give me my information. So you sort of see so far because you're standing on the shoulders of giants. That's a bit how this industry works, I think.